I
Okay.
just wish, for one thing, those who are, because I'm hearing someone speaking to me, and as we are entering into the shield with, as Jeannie instructs us, everyone I'm hearing who is concerned with a personal health issue to really engage with Red Cloud because he is here present with you all. He is asking if you wish for him to work with you and do some healing, then you invite him into your space because that's the only way he'll come in if you wish for him to be there in your home space so that he can lay his hands on you. And that's all. But that's, I'm just doing this preset here at this moment because that's what he's wishing as Jean enters and takes us all into the shield.
I'm really grateful that Red Cloud made himself present because there's a whole story. There's just a whole interesting story about all of this with Estelle that we will go into uh, once we place ourselves in the shield. And I can feel that the light of so many. And Regina and I don't plan how this is going to uh, present itself when we talk about, oh, this or that on other occasions when we've been on, but something like this, we really give ourselves over to spirit and allow ourselves to be directed so we don't always know how that's going to look. And I think that's the excitement and the beauty of connecting the dots and being in that oneness, and I think we all have that potential within us. So today's a big day. I mean, not that all Sundays aren't big days with global gathering, but this is even more of a bigly day. And we are going to honor it with protection and balance and centeredness so that we may not miss a single thing and be present and expand it all at the same time to receive the messages and the understanding and wisdom that is going to be presented today from all of us. It's a collective. When you come together like this, it's a beautiful thing because each of you bring your uniqueness into the circle, and that feeds the whole experience. So you're each an integral part of this time that we share together. So let's close our eyes for a moment and take some slow, deep breaths. And as we do so, we remember to step into a small four-sided pyramid, which is our individual single shield. And it has an intention of protection and well-being and balance. And so that is what we're accessing as we set up the four-sided small personal shield for ourselves in terms of a pyramid. And in this, we take slow, deep breaths. And as the breaths are moving in and out, we let go of all discordant thought forms, any psychic debris on what I call dust bunnies, or energies that dwell in the lower frequencies, which we in SRT call below chart 3, but it's the lower frequencies, the darker energies that would seek to wiggle their way into our collective, to ourselves individually, and then to the collective. And we just shut the door to that because we have a boundary line that comes down at the base of this four-sided pyramid. And that's the first a boundary line of intention that keeps us away from anything that is not of the light. We continue with the slow, deep breaths, and then we set a second boundary line out. Imagine about 1.5 feet out. I can't translate it into meters. I'm sorry, I'm a dumb American, but you get the picture. Erase dumb American, just not good at math. Okay. So we're breathing in with that knowing that we're safe, we're protected, we're clearing our ego is going into neutral. We're also clearing out any toxic streams or any AI contamination, so that we are clearing out any barriers to our being able to be centered and to be listening and to be receiving. Put the fears aside, concerns, the worries, all of that. This is our holy place. This is our church. This is our sacred event for being in that wonderful space of consciousness of love and that I am source presence. And with that, then we go into the group shield, which is a much bigger version of the four-sided pyramid. We go through the energy of the angelic node, and we find ourselves in this beautiful room, big, beautiful fire pit, very comfortable reclining chairs, or you may sit on a yoga mat if you so choose in your mind. We come into this group shield and feel the presence of these energy bands that we have talked about, and they surround us, floor to ceiling, spinning in the inner spin, the first EBW clockwise, the second counterclockwise, the third clockwise, and the fourth that we had today, which is a blue-violet energy field, spins counterclockwise, and they spin in this manner from floor to ceiling of this big, huge four-sided pyramid, and they keep anything out that does not serve our highest good. Within this structure, we feel our guides, of course, teachers, the spirits that are here to join with us. It is our collectively wonderful, safe place. We just continue to breathe slowly and deeply for a few moments to really get activated in that intention. And we find ourselves sitting in the presence. We are in the presence of that which is sacred, that which is whole, that which is divine, that which is source, however angelic, however you feel comfortable describing it. And let's just sit in this for a moment, grateful to all of our friends here today, both seen and unseen, for the opportunity of communication, healing, wisdom, understanding, and a point of purpose. Oh, cheerio. Regina, before we start, unless you're too loaded for this, because we get very altered, Wendy, perhaps you can tell us how we got here today with this particular topic and these beings that are joining us today.
Thank you, Jenny. I was in a meeting of our spiritualist church, and one of our guest mediums, a lady by the name of Marcia Quinton, came over to me and she said, I've got Estelle Roberts here, and she has a message for all of humanity. It's a very important message. And she talked to me a little bit about it, and she was saying that she wanted to come through automatic writing. Immediately after the meeting, I thought, well, I know exactly the people who do automatic writing and would be perfect to bring through Estelle. So I wrote immediately to Jeanne and Regina, and I said, do you know about anything about Estelle Roberts? And of course, Jeanne wrote back and said, do I ever? So one thing led to another, and I think Jeannie and Regina tuned in, and this is a result of the meeting. So that was the connection. It initiated through Marcia Quinton. So, Jeannie, back to you.
Thank you. It was very interesting because when I got that email from Wendy, I just couldn't contain myself. And I kind of wanted to jump up and down, but the household doesn't really understand the synchronicity. So I just had to get busy writing back to her and, of course, connecting to Regina. A little background quickly about how I know Estelle. Way back when, in the probably 80, 81, we were living in Santa Cruz, and my husband was a real book person. And he was always going into the used bookstores that were there in the area. Santa Cruz is kind of an eclectic town in California there by the ocean. And he brought home a book one day about us. It was an autobiography about Estelle Roberts, who I didn't know anything about. But of course, she was this really highly regarded, esteemed medium from Britain, from the UK. And I just devoured her book. And I could feel her with me, reading the book over my shoulder with me. And then began this long relationship. And I had never had any reason to share this with Wendy, or I don't share it with many people because it just wasn't part of the discussion. But Estelle then became my teacher from the other side. She was mentoring me, and she was my gatekeeper for many, many years. And I think that's one of the reasons why I've developed so well, is because she was so fantastic, and this continues to be so amazing. And Regina and I, of course, have known each other since 1979, and in later years, Estelle came to me, and I don't know the timing of it. I would say at least 10 years ago, if not more. I don't remember. Maybe she will. Estelle said to me, "Well, I don't need to be with you anymore. You're on your own. You've got some other masters that are with you, and now I want to be with Regina." And so Estelle walked over to Regina's house and began to work with her. And Regina had incredible experiences. She's done writing with her. I haven't had a chance to look up to see if I have writing from Estelle, but I just haven't had a chance this week to look up what I may have, because primarily by the time I was putting stuff on the computer, Estelle was starting to work more with Regina, which really she's working with both of us, but you know what I'm saying. It's just, it's a shared, it's just an amazing, incredible thing. And Regina has amazing stories. And one thing I want to then add to the fact about Red Cloud, it's very interesting that here is Estelle, who is from, the UK, having Red Cloud as her main guide and teacher, coming from America. And here is Regina, who lives up in that whole territory where Red Cloud was, and this full circle then coming back to it. And after my daughter died in 2011, part of my healing was journeying up to where Regina lives, and healing from the land that was there, and from the amazing connection with the indigenous energies of the medicine wheel up there. And that's a whole nother life that Regina and I have had that we don't share much yet. However, one of the first times that I was up there, I think it was October of 2011, we were led by Spirit to do a lot of release work with the spirits that were still earthbound from the Indian Wars, and whether they were indigenous or whether they were, the Americans, quote unquote. And it was a pretty intense and really all-consuming experience, because hundreds of souls were being released. And of course, we were only a small part of that experience. We were just, Spirit cannot do this for us. They help us, they assist us, but we have to be boots on the ground. We have to have representation in the human field for them to do their work. And so, as a consequence, we were those two participants. And then we had huge amounts of spirit on the other side, helping to open up corridors, if you will. Our words are so reused for being able to move from one energy field to the next, cross the veil, however you want to look at it. And it was very emotional and very rewarding. And we could see, both of us could see these people just moving, hundreds of them moving across her land, because she lives up in this beautiful open country. And at the end of the day, the sky just turned red. And Regina said, I haven't seen it like this in, I can't remember when, this red and this amazing. And it was really, of course, to us, the indication that Red Cloud was letting us know how grateful he was and how the indigenous community and the spirits on this side were grateful to this. And that's how this has continued, amongst other stories. So I wanted to give you a little bit of background there. So when Wendy said to me, well, Estelle has a message, I thought, wow, here it is again. We're all right here. Spirit is right next to us. Without the human body, they're harder to see or feel. But all of you have developed your strengths and ability to tune in. And that's why you're present in these kind of groups and doing the work that you're doing. And at this time, we need all hands on deck. So I'm going to ask if Regina, if you want to start right now with whatever you're receiving.
Right now, yes.
Please go ahead.
I'm going to just be the interpreter here because I'm not. Anyway, Red Cloud is here with all of you and each one of you. And if you request his gifts, his energy, he's asking everybody, those who are requesting his energy, whether it be healing or guidance or protection, you state, I am, and you say it to yourself. State your name. I am. Name. Inviting your help, Red Cloud. Raise your left hand, palm open, up, and he's placing a ball of clay in it. Very light, small ball of clay, maybe the size of a racquetball, golf ball size. Putting it in your hand. Feeling that clay and the weight of it, and the energy in it. Bring it down to your lap. And place your right hand over the ball of clay. And just hold on to it. That's his energy. It'll be here with you today throughout this session. And for those who wish to receive any more healing through the week, through the months, invite Red Cloud in. But he asks of only one thing, that you sit quietly and receive. Turn off the phones, turn off the radios, turn off the interruptions to receive and feel the presence of his healing. Now, he wants you all just to feel the energy, and if you're not aware of the energy, it's okay. He's there with you. That ball of clay is like the life, they say we've come from the earth. It's the ball. It's just that life force inside that clay. So he's going to step back now so that Jeanne can bring through Estelle. But he just wants you to be aware of his presence with you right now.
It's good to have a platform, unlike any platform I've had before. Considering I stood on stages in front of many people, I've had very little experience with the electronic world as Estelle. I've heard many people cry out, many people who are light workers who have been crying out, people who've given their lives to this planet, who are crying in pain and sorrow. I hear you feel that you're not sure that you're enough, that what you're doing isn't necessarily directed as completely as you would like it to be. I too feel that way at times. By choosing to continue to be with all of these earth maladies and conditions. And it's a delicate balance to know what to say to you at this time. The first thing that I wish to say to all of you is, you are not alone. You are not alone in the fact that we are really just right here. And as much as you expand your consciousness and you travel in your meditation and you experience different forces of life, whether it be the angels or the ETs or the different multiple realms, we are all still right here. I would equate it to Disneyland or Disney World, where you were in a very closed system and you could go on various rides and have various experiences in your creation. The problem is when we get stuck on one ride because we really like it a lot, it's addictive. And the more we ride that one ride, we forget there are like 30 other rides in the park where you can also enjoy yourselves. There are pavilions, there are places to eat, there are places to sit and relax. But there is an addiction to this one ride, whatever it may be for you. The reason I use that metaphor is that's where this globe is right now. In trying to simplify it, I don't mean to ignore the potentials and the harm and the disagreeable energetics that are taking place. But I preface it with understanding that this is not the only ride for all of you. And by understanding that, you can move into other places within your own self and expand into other global communities of thought, which will help you navigate this time period. On a Zoom Friday night with Dan and Regina and Jeanne, I kind of prepared them for what I was going to say today. From this side, I don't have the nervousness that I had every time I stepped foot in front of an audience and let myself go and let Red Cloud direct me. From where I am now, I am more of myself, much more of Estelle, and I am also choosing to be a guidance counselor. And so please understand when I speak to you today that I do not wish to bring up more trauma or terror. I wish for you to see in your centered space how all of this chaos is playing itself and how you can work with it. And there are several levels. There is the level that you hear about, whether you choose a certain media outlet, however you get your information. And that's all tied into one narrative. Then there is the karmic narrative, which is right versus wrong, country versus country, leader versus leader, ego versus ego. And then there is the cosmic level. The fact that this planet has always been designed for choices. It is intense and filled with all sorts of different issues because that is its program. And when any of us decide to incarnate, we come in with the knowing that we are trying to find our center in the midst of a very chaotic realm. That is, and I don't mean this lightly, the fun of it. There are things in this particular place and vibration that cannot be experienced in anything close by. And so when you jump into the chaos, the dissension, the ego, the karma. It's part of the ride. So let us look at this from the standpoint of the karmic experiences that are going on right now on a global level and not the individual. This world is a tapestry. And all these different elements are woven into this tapestry. Some of you have chosen certain colors, certain shapes, certain conditions. Others have chosen different ones. But it's all leading to your own wisdom and understanding of who you are and what you are made of. There are groups that come in with the challenges of looking to make their tapestry a little brighter, more constructive, more pronounced, more beautiful. But there's always going to be this element that runs amok, which brings in dissension, division, and what you would call the darker forces. One of the things that I learned early on with Red Cloud was to trust who he was and who he is. That his agenda was to work through me with clarity and confidence. Here is an energy that was an earth incarnation, which received so much trial and tribulation, and yet so many, as you call Indigenous First Nations people, are guides to not only the American community, but to others around the globe. They take it very seriously to be able to share their wisdom of community and consciousness with those who have different experiences, different cultures, different trainings from their families, etc. It is a dark energy right now that is pervading the planet. That's just fact. Do you need to succumb to that? No. Do you need to play into it? No. Do you need to fight it? Yes. Do you fight it with guns and bombs? No. You place yourselves in the midst of the darkness as beacons of light. For those living in the United States, you don't have to go anywhere because it's already there. There is this great movement at play to dissolve a certain level of humanity. But it goes beyond just the human input. It is, if you would call it, a toxic virus that emanates and flows, just like you have viruses in your human community. If you see it as such, then it is very easy to work with it and to remove it. We have to be honest about the influences on the planet. What does that mean in terms of where the US is going right now? Well, certain factions are digging big holes in the ground. Other factions are already living in holes of the ground, saying, no, I don't believe that's what's happening, and I'm going to just hit here until the storm blows over. And others are standing in the storm and saying, no, wait a minute, we're tired of this. Which one are you? Gandhi, in his wisdom, has said through Jeanne and many others that the collective is the most powerful energy on the planet. The only way to change the collective is to change each individual perception of life and creation. And that is, we're never alone and we never die. But it also is, as you sow, shall you reap. But I would say for most of you here in this group that you're very aware of karma and you have been clearing it, because once you come here, it happens whether you want it to or not. It's part of the deal when you come into Disneyland. It's an energy field. And so my message to all of you is this. Don't pretend that things are not going to get worse. Jeannie had a real hard time with that when I told her that a few days ago. But she understands. And sometimes things, when they get to a certain point, just have to play themselves out. When the dam finally bursts, the water has to go somewhere. But I don't mean this to be a message of doom and gloom. My message is simple. Things are tough. They're going to get tougher. This is the way things have aligned in a free will environment. And the job for any of you is to be sure in yourself that you are whole, that you do not walk down the path of darkness or fear. This world is a fear-based world and will continue to be so because that is how it has been designed for your personal evolution. And for me, I cannot say to you, oh, gee golly whiz, just be loving people. Well, I can say that and I truly support that, but you need to be truly loving people who stand firm in the knowing that you're going to see this shift, but you're going to know at the end of it that it comes to the point where light and goodness and love once again plays out. You see, that is what this planet is about. And so many civilizations who have come before and who are going on right now where you are not able to touch in their vibration are facing the same elements of right and wrong and choice. That is why this is such an incredible experience to be here. And that is why there is so much guidance to support you and cheer you on. You decided to come into this really intense game of life. And we're cheering you on. You can do it. You can do it. Oh, Hyacinth, don't give up. Everything's going to work out for you. It's just that we have expectations. And those expectations sometimes need to be shelved so that we can listen to that clarity within and follow our own line of consciousness. The collection of thought that says we align with the light of love and the I am is massive when it is all lined up. Again, Gandhi said, look what I did, motivating people to fight. This is not a pretty place. It is a pretty place, but it isn't a pretty place. So, as Estelle today, I am not coming in with a new set of rose-colored glasses. I'm coming in with the truth that choices have been made particular to the United States of America. The majority do not believe in those choices, but that is the way the political system has been corrupted. But it's a challenge for all the globe to stand tall in their truth. And it's a wonderful opportunity for the collective to unite in the consciousness of good and to stand up. That is the role of this planet. What are you going to serve? Are you going to serve the light in yourself or the darkness? Are you going to fall into the level of fear, or are you going to withstand that temptation to give up and stand on the level of truth and love and balance and wholeness? It's the vision that comes from within each and every one of you that has the power to help this experience of so many to eventually right itself into goodness. It's a constant thing through history. And there's a reason for that it doesn't go away. It's not because we're supposed to supersede and win the planet over to complete light. This is a learning planet. It is part of your evolution towards finding your own light and wisdom and strength of character. That is why you are here. That is why we have horrible problems and horrible stories, so that we may learn about ourselves and our ego and our choices, and to move so completely away from the enemy of fear that we are able to do whatever is necessary to be that pillar of strength and courage, and to take whatever action we feel led to take. And with that, I'm going to say a prayer and call on the beauty of the collective world at this moment in time to find its strength and wisdom, its power, its joy, its resources, to understand that we are never alone and that we've joined here to serve this karmic place, but also then to bring in the cosmic awareness of light and balance, of wholeness, of joy and laughter, which must continue and must get larger in order for us to move through this cycle that is at our feet at this present time. We know it's not the first time, and we know it will not be the last. We know too that being in it is a lot harder than watching it. But we are all connected to the glory of this place and this time, and to the higher energies and powers and the wisdoms of the collective. And we live that with grace and unconditional love. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeannie. Thank you, Estelle.
Whew. Thank you all. I don't know where to go from here, but to kind of explain, perhaps, or at least answer questions that people might have about how Estelle is presenting her message, how she views things, how you have been able to help yourselves, your contributions, your concerns, um, about any of it, without this being a Sunday, Monday school lesson, but just to understand more concisely, the elements that are going into this.
Jeannie, how did you feel about receiving this message? I mean, it's pretty intense, and I imagine it raises lots of mixed feelings in you. You've been sitting with this for a few days now. Could you
That's a
share
good
with us?
question. I would like to share with you. Regina and I and our small little group, I know you guys all have your own small little groups that do prayer work and energy work and healing and such, have been working with the big medicine wheel in the middle of America, and we've been working energetically with other parts of the world to help shift and move energies. Without going into too much detail, this planet is always about choice. It's all about free will. yet we're not as free as we think we are to make those choices if we feel we're caught in certain ideas. We're not as free as we think we are if we're stuck on something. And that may then facilitate every incarnation that we come in with, because we're still trying to get through that ride, as was stated earlier. I know that when I first got into all of this metaphysical work and the spiritual work and got into unity and all this positive thinking, and there was always, oh, it's going to be beautiful. We're going to change the world, and everything's just going to be so fantastic. And you just have to think, and you create that way. And oh yeah, it's just hippy dippy love, love, love. And then I found out that wasn't necessarily all the story, especially for my individual life. And when you come in to be a light worker, as a dear friend of mine who passed recently said, she said, there's going to be attrition. We're going to lose people with this. I think, at least I speak for myself. I don't want to think of myself as a participant in war, but there is a war going on right now, if you will, if that's the correct word, a battle for right and wrong, good and alignment and peace, because it just seems to be something that, as Estelle said, is part of the matrix of the planet. So it's hard then to balance. Everything's going to be okay with, well, we're slip sliding into the abyss here, especially in the United States right now. The energy here is, it's really glum. And partly, I think, from the people I know who've been working with light and working with goodness and working with hope and love and clearing and healing, we've been working a long time. And for my generation, it's like, really? After all this, we're here? And so we have the human disappointment and the human ego that's going on about it. It's depressing. I graduated high school in '67. That was the year of the flower power, I'm going to San Francisco with flowers in my hair. But we need to step back and realize that this is just one small time period in a vast, eternal system of creation that really goes beyond what we comprehend. And each of us has our own spin on it, which is fantastic. There's nothing right or wrong with that. It's where we are in consciousness. But we need to face the facts. It's like when the pipe bursts, as it did in Regina's house last week. You're not going to go and say, oh, well, that pipe is burst. Oh, it'll get better, and just sit there and go, get better, pipe, get better. No, she had to go get the guy.
It didn't work.
Tear that whole doggone wall, ceilings, and fix it. So there is the thought and belief that it will get fixed, but then there's the action of it. And what has become very apparent to me in the last few years, particularly this last year, particularly with the training that I'm getting from Spirit now on the other side, we're all in this contained environment, which seems to be so vast, and it is on many levels, but it's all really right here. And we're here to help those who have not found the comfort in themselves or the direction for themselves to help the planet right itself, because this planet is all about righting itself, not being one way, lopsided, going down, and the tubes are breaking all the time, and perhaps upgrading it. I'm not saying that the planet couldn't eventually change into something else, but for right now, this is where it is. And so what I got from Estelle was, can't fix something unless you're really honest about what's going on. And so you look at it, and for me anyway, I'm glad I live in California, but I understand what's going on. I'm very sad about it. I'm human. I'm going to have those human emotions. But I I'm going to keep that transcendence and within me going, to know that this is a part of this cycle that the planet's on, that the United States is on particularly, and walk through with that as best I can without succumbing to the thoughts that this is it and nothing ever good is going to happen again. And that's a hard one because of the way things are staged right now, all the things we're faced with AI, what's real, what isn't real, what's true, what isn't true, and this seeming disregard for what right and wrong really is in our country. It's just an old story that seems to repeat over and over again. So I've had to put myself in balance with, okay, this is what's going on right now. It's not the end of all things. It may be a longer cycle than I'm going to be comfortable with. This cycle is probably going to really affect my children and my grandchildren. But this is the way it is right now. So what do we do in that? Well, we do our best, whatever that happens to be. And we allow Spirit to help us do what we feel led to do, whether it's gathering in meditation groups and seeing people reconnect to themselves so that they're stronger in that consciousness of what we would call a God center or a I am center or source or divine, whatever that word we use is, to know that we're connected to goodness and however we participate in that. So that's been my experience this couple of weeks.
Thank you, Jeannie.
Thank you, Jeannie. Sally and Ellen and someone else have had their hands up for a while. Sally?
Yeah, well, first I just wanted to say thank you, Jeannie and Estelle and Regina, for those wonderful messages. And it's, as I kind of mentioned in the chat, it's really timely, of course, especially as you've mentioned for us here in the US as things seems to be getting rather tense. And I struggled with this, and I think what you have stated has helped me solidify my position. I guess I'll just put it that way. And it could change depending. But I struggled with how outspoken to be around our current events, because being a person who does speak publicly about a lot of spiritual topics and things that are hopefully high vibrational in nature, this is not high vibrational topics, you know, well, they don't feel that way often in the moment. But it's funny that you brought up Gandhi, because he was one of the figures when I was contemplating this topic, about what is my role, what is my responsibility during these times. And Gandhi and Martin Luther King and some other highly spiritual individuals who were publicly political in trying to improve the conditions of their people, basically felt like they came forward to say, if you are compelled to speak out, then that is your information that you're asking for to speak out. And so I think that as spiritual people, we need to be careful about spiritual bypassing, you know, as if we don't live in the world. You know, a lot of people say live in the world, but not of the world. But we are here for reasons. And sometimes that is to speak for those who don't have a voice. And sometimes it's to protect those who are being harmed. And, you know, whatever the case may be.
I would like to add on that when Jimmy Carter came through, and he's writing a series of messages now through me. And he always says, I will not be silent. I will not be silent. And one of the things he said in the most recent message, which I'm going into a subtrack form for a platform of writing, and I will let everybody know how to get there for the writing. And I bring this up because one of the things he commented on, because he's very much here also, is he said, you know, the money people were there, but they weren't as prevalent and out on our faces as they are now, simply because the social media had not gathered its energy for him yet in such an intense way. And he said, but I could draw a line down the Oval Office of the two factions that were at play always. He said the military on one side of the line and the money militia on the other. And he said that was those were the two factions, and of course variations on the theme, and that just really struck me. But we cannot separate ourselves and say, well, to be spiritual, I can't talk about that. No, that's the whole problem with separation. We're either spiritual or we're not. We're either connected or we're not. And how we work with that, and how we talk with that, and how our choices are made, it's it there is no separation. That's where the problems come in, because so many people have been separated from their own truth. So if we choose to speak on a political subject or on another subject, we carry that essence of who we are with us regardless of what the topic is. And I don't think this is a time for any of us to be quiet anymore. We can choose it in the way we want to work, or we can do other things, but this is an all hands on deck, all boots on the ground moment. And we must not be tempted to give up because we're tired or we feel like, well, that's it. Is it going to run its course? Maybe. It still depends on the actions of many. And so it's going to be an interesting time period. Now, the thing is, and I know this with Estelle, is that sometimes we have to really look at the darkest potential to get ourselves up off our butt and engage. And then that darkest potential does not manifest because we heard the call, whatever that call is for us. So it's a matter, though, of looking at it and be honest about it.
Thank you so much.
So, well, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
More.
Jeanne, excuse me one moment. My wonderful housemate, Elsa, has asked, who's on right now, has asked whether Jimmy Carter has a direct message for us today. I don't want to interrupt the flow of the conversation, but I thought I would put that question in.
He said, do you want another lecture? He said, I will acquiesce to the other Sunday school teacher, because it's Sunday over here for us in the U.S. So Estelle's a Sunday school teacher. He said, I'll step out. Basically, I love his energy so much. He's so true to himself, and that I will not be silent. And for me to finally step out again and want to be, it's not about me, but the message is to be out there and have a level of vulnerability because of that. I don't know if I'm ashamed that it's taken me this long or not, but because of the battlefield that went on after the Challenger stuff, both Regina and I have been very quiet and worked within our people around us. And it's taken a bit for us to step out because we know we have to. And I know that I couldn't live with myself if I didn't, but that's about me. The point is, Jimmy's going to have, it's probably going to be a series of 12 messages at this point. And I have 3 of them written. He is very much on line with the same kind of thing that Estelle said. And of course, when he writes for me, it's very much Christian, but it's very much the Christ consciousness. It's not about the individual Jesus. And he said he let go of that pretty quickly. He said even before he passed away and left his body, because he realized that's a consciousness. It's an inner calling to honor and be led by a moral high ground of how you treat people, and regardless of what you call it. And he said there's a rampant energy that pervades cultures throughout time of ego and wanting to be heard, which is fear directed and fear based. When people don't feel they're enough, when they don't feel they have enough, when they don't feel strong and capable and balanced and healthy in themselves mentally, emotionally, etc., then they're going to go out and strike at the world. It's a virus. And, you have to look at it as that and do all the things that you would do to get rid of a virus, beyond what we see. Because that virus is even influencing the leaders, and they think it's their own agenda, but really they're being influenced by agenda even higher than theirs. But Jimmy is very much acclimated very quickly to the ways of our thinking, even though I feel his individuality and all of this. And he's just he's he had that wonderful grin, that wonderful smile, and he's just grinning from ear to ear to continue to have a platform. And it's not his ego. It really isn't. It's his desire to help humanity. And he said, he didn't speak up early enough about segregation, and he learned that lesson. So now he's full force on, I will not be silent. And I guess I'm not either. So if we're going to go hand in hand, so yeah.
Beautiful.
Thanks so much, Jeannie and Jimmy. Ellen, I think you've been waiting for a while.
Thank you. Thanks, Dan. Jeannie and Regina, thank you so much, and Estelle. Thank you. I need to speak to this from my own experience of having seen this time coming since I was in my 20s and having been hospitalized because I saw it coming and I would talk about it. And I'm grateful to be part Native American and have had a lot of time in circles with elders who have explained this time to me. And I want to share that with as much respect as I can. As I understand it, and I'm just humbly saying this as I understand it, we are living in a time that the Hopi have prophesied that has to do with the lack of connection to the form and function of a human being. What a human being is here to do, and what our role is with respect to the earth and each other and all the creatures on the earth. And as we walk through this time, what we are experiencing now is the way that the Hopi prophecy was laid out. If this choice, then that. If this choice, then that. In my own life, I have been told that I will always be taken care of, which is a beautiful way to be reassured. And I was also shown that I would be living on a farm where we would be growing our own food, which I am. And I'm deeply grateful for being cared for. But what I'm also being shown now is that every single human is being called to what it is we came to the planet to do. That the most important piece of this is to deeply go inside our own hearts and know why we came here. That's what we're doing. It's not going to look the same for everybody. It's going to be a different thing for every single soul. But what we do need to do with each other is to love and support each other in that calling and in finding what it is that we're being asked to do at this time, because this is the turning of the age. This is what I've been taught with respect to my elders, and that's what I wanted to share, and I'm really grateful we're having this conversation.
It's excellent, Ellen. You're so right on. I get chills when you say all that you say because it's so truthful. The first time I was ever connected on this lifetime with the Native American energy as adult was on the Hopi Reservation, the second mesa in Arizona, and it changed my life. And you're absolutely right. It's the connectedness and getting back connected to the earth, to the land, everything. Brilliant. Just lovely, lovely. Thank you.
Beth,
Wow.
you're next, but I want to address Ellen real quick here. Ellen, Red Cloud just said sauna, sage, sweet cedar, hot stone, juniper berries.
Thank you, Red Cloud. Thank you, Regina.
Yeah.
Oh, Beth, please. Beth.
Hello, everybody. For those of you who don't know me, I am part of the Divine Love community. And Al and Jean Fike are actually going to be your speakers next week. They're going to be coming in to talk, which is really going to be really useful because I can only I can only say a little bit because I heard some of what happened tonight on our meeting, which was 3 hours ago, when Al channeled someone who calls himself Orion, who came to Al about 5 years ago, and telling us that he'd been sent to come to Earth to help with what's going to happen. And gradually over the years, he's told us more and more. He came 3 hours ago to Al and said, basically, Alan, what you've said, a lot of what you've actually been saying, that there is a lot of fear at the moment. The lightness, the light and the dark in this world is at a crucial time because it has got suddenly much darker. He said that the spirit world is here to help. There are a lot of spirits working tirelessly to help, but they need feet, they need bodies on the ground. They can't do it without us being here. The other thing is that we've all been chosen, or we've all chosen to be here at this time. We all have got a role to play, and it is up to us to ask for guidance, to seek guidance, and to be aware that what we do here is very important. We're here to help and love people, especially all the people that are going to be in fear, because it is going to get a lot worse. It is going to get worse before it gets better. But the overall picture is it will improve, it will get better. But I think, as you, Jeannie, said, probably not in our lifetime. It's going to affect more our children, grandchildren. But we do our bit while we're here. Don't be silent, but don't be confrontational. It's not going to help to be to make matters worse. I think we've seen an example of that just recently on Friday. So I think it's so interesting that this is taking place now, and yet 3 hours ago I was listening to a message that was more or less exactly the same. And I think actually on social media there are quite a number of people saying exactly the same thing. The message is coming again and again from different places. But I think the most important thing that I took away from it is that we are important. We are being guided. We are being shown. We are being encouraged. We're not alone. There's people, there's the spirits with us all the time, there to help. But it's up to us to find out what we are supposed to be doing, to ask for guidance, which is really important. And the other thing that's most important is the love that we show. And if we can create joy, create laughter, bring up the vibration, bring out the light, because it is basically a contest between light and dark, and that's what we're fighting.
I like the word contest rather than battle. I think that's
Very
nice.
nice, Beth.
I appreciate that so much about it's just so true. Absolutely, the whole planet. There's everybody's awakening, and I'm thinking of Matthew Shepard. Do people know who he was? 25 years ago, a gay man from was it Montana? I think it was Wyoming, and a young man, and he was shunned and just ridiculed and chased, and finally this gang of guys caught him and left him to die tied to a fence on a highway. And that's when this program, one of the writings of Angels in America came out. And they had a whole, I remember this, some of my details are probably not quite as accurate as they used to be, but I remember they had a big parade for him in his hometown, and there were all these protesters. And the way they blocked them out was they had people that were dressed like angels, and they all just came and blocked the protesters so that you couldn't see them. So they didn't fight with them, they didn't battle with them, they just stood their ground. And I think it's a wonderful metaphor for us today. I thought it was just so brilliant to stand our ground. We don't have to be, like you say, you don't always have to be confrontational. We stood our ground, stand our ground, whatever. But this is a turning point, and we're all getting the same message, which is comforting.
Yes.
Very comforting.
Mm.
Very comforting.
Thank you.
Beth and Jeannie and everyone, I just wanted to just interject a personal experience, and or one or two personal experiences here. If any of you have watched the Bob Dylan movie that came out recently, I came of age in Greenwich Village at that time. I literally lived in an apartment over the Folklore Center, which features briefly in that film. And as such, I had a ringside seat, and as also as a young filmmaker, I had a young ringside seat at the inception of the movement toward more conscious and engaged music and arts at that time. And I think we all understand how powerful that was at the time of the Vietnam War and other things happening in our culture, to change people's minds. And I think we need to, those of us who are so inclined, to be more involved in the creative arts that can illuminate the positive path, that can reflect on the issues that are happening in a way that's non-threatening, but illuminating, and that is hopefully fun at the same time. So that's one thing that has been coming up for me at this point in time, that the creative arts need to step up to the plate. And whether it's Hollywood or popular music or even classical music, whatever it is, I hope and pray that will become a part of the energy that's needed now. Just very briefly, another personal experience. Some years ago, I was at a workshop here in the San Francisco area, and we did a meditation. And I'm not the world's greatest meditator, so what happened surprised me. Within a few moments, I felt I was tumbling upwards through a tunnel, and I emerged from the tunnel floating in space. And I said, what is this? Where am I? What's going on? And then I realized that in front of me was the earth. If at first it appeared to me like this perfect, beautiful, white, sort of huge billiard ball. And so I didn't recognize it immediately as the earth. And then when I sort of felt more deeply into it, I said, well, this is the planet Earth seen at a higher frequency. And as I'm watching it, it rotates. And what comes into view is this huge, ugly red welt, this swelling that was coming up from this beautiful white surface. And it had this really sort of powerfully offensive energy to it. But I tried to penetrate into it and say, what is this? What it is? And then it struck me, it hit me. And this was the energy of World War II in Europe. And I was born in 1942 when the war was still on. And it struck me that that was the last thing that I observed before I came in. So I came out of the meditation and I cried for 2 hours. And I imagine that those of us who are of the same or close generations have, on some level, had an analogous experience on entering this earth at this time. And not to bring it up in a painful way, but just to perhaps keep it in mind. And again, not as a matter of despair, but of you might say the proper framing of the situation.
Mm-hmm.
So
Thank you, Dan.
that's what I felt like explaining. Okay, Lloyd.
I think Regina was next. Regina
Oh,
had
I'm
her hand
sorry.
up. Did you want-
Let's go with Lloyd.
Okay, Lloyd.
Thank you, Wendy.
Just I just felt like raising my hand when you mentioned art. I came of age in the San Francisco Bay Area.
Mhm.
Also, graduated high school in 1970. I was a very serious musician throughout high school, and I became disillusioned with art at the time. I thought we needed to deal with more nuts and bolts things, and in retrospect, I discovered that I'm not really a nuts and bolts person, and that art is really important. And so I'm working on that now. But there's just been so many times in my life when I have, well, to use the biblical story of Jonah, when I've, sorry, turned the other way, either because the calling looked like it was too much fun, and so therefore I wasn't doing the real work.
Mm.
Other times it was because the calling was too difficult, and I didn't see any way to solve it. And I don't know what else to say. That's been my experience, and I'm slowly learning to listen and do what really is my calling now. And I find myself feeling guilt because there are so many times when I turned away. And what if I hadn't? Maybe somebody else wouldn't have either, and maybe we wouldn't be in this mess if more of us had listened and done. But maybe that's just part of the school, Maybe that's just part of it. That's all.
That's the Ho'oponopono. I love you. Please forgive me. I'm sorry. Thank you. Is to get rid of that guilt, shame, and blame. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. I love the Ho'oponopono. It's hard to do, but it's all about what is in us. If the world out there is chaos, what chaos do we have in ourselves? We clear our own chaos. Forgiveness. It doesn't matter. We clear it because we're eternal. We understand. We learn. Maya Angelou said, do your best until you knew more, and then do more of your best. It's just the way it is. We don't need to give ourselves any more grief than has already gone before.
Yeah. Thank you.
Can I add something to that, Jeannie?
Oh, sure.
Would that be
Please,
right? Sorry,
please.
I hate to just butt in. And this is Lloyd, whether or not this speaks to you or not, I don't know, but it was something that came to me just in the last week or so. And it was another medium who said it out loud, and I don't remember his name. He wasn't somebody I was familiar with, but he said that he has taken a picture of himself as a small boy, and he's put it in a frame and put it on his desk so that he can remember, that he needs to be kind to himself the same as he would be kind to that child, that boy that he was. And so I've done it. I've got a picture of myself as a, probably 18-month-old now, sitting in my office in a frame so that I can remember to treat myself the way I would treat that precious child.
Absolutely.
Very
Because I've
good.
not been good about doing it in the past.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Really
Beautiful.
beautiful.
The great writer Richard Bach has written about conversations with his younger self, and I'll try to dig that up, but it's quite wonderful. Thank you.
I wanted to add something to Lloyd also, which is I've worked on guilt all my adult life. And when I studied with Seth in the 70s, he would tell us that that was the most that we could do to help ourselves in our world was to just love and accept ourselves with all those things we see as our imperfections, because Seth had said, flesh and blood has many dimensions. Perfection is not one of them. And I just think that I've been hard on myself my whole life, and I'm finally less hard on myself. And I think that if we believe that we are a portion of God, that each of us is a piece of God in us, then if we put ourselves out of our heart and start guilting ourselves, we're kind of putting God out of our heart too. And how can we do that? So I think that whatever you did was fine. I agree that, whatever you did at that time was where you were then, and no regrets, because as you said, life, and we learn, hopefully. And what Dan said about, coming in with certain already predestined feelings, or I came in and was told that I screamed for the first 2 years of my life.
Yeah, you were mad.
Bad case of colic. It was like getting the Crohn's disease I got many years later. And I just think that sometimes we come in with this stuff to work on. And so there's no blame, if we could have done more at some time, maybe we couldn't then. But I think to set ourselves free and others free, we have to just accept that you did what you did then. It was what the best you could do then, and no regrets. You learned. You want to do differently now. So if you learn, that's the whole point of it, isn't it? So
Jerry, you're so exciting to me when you say Seth. I'm just right there because I've worked with Seth continually, and there's some Seth stuff that's up. There's a video of him up on the Cosmic Voices Network. I don't know if you've had a chance to look at it.
well, my friend Dickie is probably the one who made it, the one who introduces Seth and standing outside in front of the Elmira house. I knew Seth and Jane and Robbie very well because I lived for a while 20 minutes from Elmira. And then I heard there was a medium who brought through this Seth, and I made a beeline to get in those classes. And so Seth was just the most amazing, because of the personality along with the wisdom. So that
Well,
when he was vehement
sorry.
about something, we were getting a little nervous, because he'd give you that look. You've seen it in the video where he is totally serious. And he was never more serious about anything than telling us we had to love ourselves. Because without that, you can't love anything else. You really can't give that love freely because you've held it back from yourself for so long. And so that was his main point. Love yourself and give yourself just honor. And I've been working on that since the 70s. And all I can say is I've made some progress, but it's still a work in progress. And
Oh,
I'm sure
yes.
I'll work on it for the rest of this life.
Well, when I refer to the Cosmic Voices, it's me channeling Seth that I did in 1987 that we made a video of. We have several videos of
Oh, I
Seth.
didn't know that. I thought you
Oh,
were talking
yes. No, when I say
about
I've worked with Seth, I mean, I have been a medium for him. And there's a lot of history with that as well. I've taught classes that I have had, and some just a Mary Beth's on online today with it. But no, Seth's energy is very intense. And I met a gentleman who came from Australia, a young man, 18. I forget his name now. He lives here in California. And we met. And, he said, I held the energy for him. And he said, oh, that's Seth. There's no denying it because it was at the time when, Robert Butts was saying, that's Jane Roberts' husband, that he would never come through anybody else again, which is like saying, I can't be your friend, Cherry, because you're already friends to somebody else.
The regular students are big on that. They love it, because then they have the special connection. But as we know, that's just a limitation of their own. And Seth can speak to whoever the hell he wants.
And he's spoken for a lot of people, not just me. I mean, I knew a young gentleman when I was at the Psi conference in Switzerland in '89 who was channeling him, and he couldn't call him that at the time because of everything that was going on. But I went up to him and I said, "That's Seth's energy." And he goes, "Oh yeah, I know, but I can't say that." I said, "But I know it, so of course it's Seth energy. It's energy." Anyway, I'm going to be doing work with Seth later on, so just keep your little.
I will keep my ears open for that. Clearly, there was a Seth Jane. A difference in the way it comes across, it can't help but be a difference in the way it comes across because the personality was Seth Jane. Jane was very irreverent and very quick to curse. She chain smoked cigarettes and drank wine through the entire class. I
I
was
know.
shocked in my first class, but the lights didn't go out because prior to being around Seth, that's all I really understood about such things. We were in a dark room and it was called a seance. And I went to my first class and a student made a comment and Seth came through. He would take off Jane's glasses and throw them and take over. And a humor like, as you know, he was very funny. He was very vehement. But I believe that was Seth Jane in the sense of how Seth was able to come through the mechanics of Jane. But I do believe that Seth won't be silenced either.
Oh no,
That's
no, and
Seth.
there's so much more that we don't really have time for today. But I'm glad you brought that up because he's another incredible energetic that has walked with us through this whole thing since we started with the Challenger material all those years ago. In fact, we really feel he orchestrated and he'd always tease that he finally found an extra large medium because Jane was so small. So he liked his extra large medium in me, but I wouldn't drink or smoke. So, that's the way it was. But as you say, it comes through in the association that because it's a part of that energetic,
Absolutely.
it's just a
Jane
part
liked
of that.
first, and so did Seth. Jane had that irreverence, and so did Seth. But as us being young in our 20s, we loved it. We couldn't get enough of it. He told us that we were the black sheep of the universe, and we were here to kick apart the structures, and we loved it. So,
It's wonderful. Thank you.
oh, my pleasure.
Regina.
Thank you. Thank you. I don't know if I can hold on very much longer because it's with Red Cloud still. I've still got his energy. He's still giving me information. This is for Gary. I wrote these down as fast as I can. Gary, you're back. Get some Rolfing. Release your intestinal knot to release your back. I don't know if any of this helps. Whatever. I wrote things down. Steve Fryer wrote, get to your mountain, your place, lay down, listen for me. I'm trying to speak to you. So you know where your place is, your special place. That's what he's saying. And he's been trying to talk to you, he says. So I don't know what the message is more than that. Regarding Gandhi, regarding any of the leaders, regarding mostly he wrote this down, Sally, when Sally was talking about, oh, he says, oh, shut up, move around. He didn't say shut up, but that's my thing. Let me get out of the way. He said, while he walked the earth, warring was the response because we were tribes. We protected what we had, and what we had was our women and children and our animals. He said, but the land was not ours. And warring is not the answer. Trust in the government. And he said, you saw what happened. We trusted, they stole, they took, they take, and will continue to do so. They will take everything of yours. He said, it's not that you want to have a life of paranoia or fear, but you have to have an understanding. There comes a point of blind trust to a bully, bully mechanism. So his thing was to stand up straight, arm in arm together in song. I said the song, again, that refers back down to what Dan was talking with the arts. He says the song, he said, we chanted. They hated our chanting. They decided to take us out because of the chanting. What did that chanting do? It created fear to them. They all of a sudden could not understand. How could we be chanting? How could we? But we were raising the vibration. We were protecting ourselves. That is what song does. It raises your vibration. Everything else, going out and shouting and condemning or anger, lowers your vibration. Do music, song, drum, shine a light, all of those things, arm in arm. That's what it's about. He's saying Hitler, their army was able to march across lockstep. But what does lockstep mean? And what does that sound do? It created a tremendous fear pushing forward. It scared people because the thunder of this lockstep, bang, 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 moving through the streets is a frightening experience. But just think how fabulous it would be if everybody just had their Native American drum and went boom, 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 boom. Or the Scottish Highland drums, boom, 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 boom. It said all around the world there are ways to make sound using a natural force. Your voice, rocks, lungs, everything. But we can create an energy upheaval by the use of song, however you do it. So this is what he was saying, Sally. And I think I got everything.
Thank you.
Yeah. He said for all of us. Deb he wanted to talk to, but Deb has signed off already. So, but he was saying that to all of us, when we are feeling so overwhelmed by the circumstances that are surrounding and out of our control, and we feel it is out of our control, connect to the earth, connect to the wind, connect to the sun, just stand outside, breathe it, feel it, or lay down on the ground. Look at the ocean, do whatever you can, get outside your concrete environment and feel the tree in your yard. Just hold on to it a minute. Be a tree hugger. What does it matter? Just hold on, because those things will survive. They will survive everything that's happening. And he's saying that that's what you need to do. If you just feel so overwhelmed with everything that you're being fed, go to the basics, back down to the basics. Wood, earth, wind, wood, fire, all of that, and water. Definitely. Even if he says sit in the bathtub, fill it up to your neck if you can, and just go under and hold your breath and feel the silence and the water and the warmth. And if that doesn't work, go to the person next to you and say, just hug me. He says, it's amazing what that feels like. Just hug me. Just hold me. Thank you. Okay, now I can let him go. Sorry. Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you.
No
Yes.
no prophesizing on this end. I'm not. That's Jeannie's job.
Nancy, you had your hand up.
Hi, everyone. Up until Regina spoke, I was feeling the frustration of what can we do? I've been feeling very frustrated this week with what's going on in our government and blah, blah, blah. And as you were talking, I remembered something Einstein said. We rise above the level where the problem is to find the solution. My words, not his. And then while you were talking, Regina, I remembered something I'd put in this month's Inner Voice.
Mm-hmm.
That if you're angry, sing.
Yes.
If you're burned out, walk. If you're overthinking, write. If you're anxious, breathe. If you're stressed, exercise. If you're sad, show gratitude.
Mm-hmm.
If you're lazy, take a cold shower. And if you're impatient, reflect on the progress that you've made. So I guess, again, it's just raising our vibration up from the level where we're feeling the frustration. And it really came from one remark, well, something I heard from Senator Bernie Sanders. He's out on the trail trying to activate Democrats to do something. And I'm trying to reach him to do something. So I see the frustration. But I will take this advice and see what we can do from the higher level. So thank you for that. And thank you, Jeannie, for your message earlier. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Nancy. Can you copy and paste that in so everybody can have that? I know it's in the Inner Voice. That was,
yes, certainly.
I didn't read that piece yet. So that's wonderful to have the synchronicity of the messages at that point.
And to love yourself more, as Louise Hay taught back in the 80s. Her book came out. And it really is the answer.
We can't help anybody else, and we can't raise our own vibration without really accepting who we are and saying, all the things that we demean ourselves with, those are all just human factors that we just try and fight through. But we're really good people. All of us, we're really good people. And remember that you're good human.
I feel that I've been at this work to help raise the consciousness for years and years and years. And yet we still have all these problems on the planet. So it's time for all of us to step up, I think.
I think we need a dance off.
A dance off.
And
Sally, to what you said earlier about, putting a picture of yourself as a child nearby. I don't know if that came from Louise Hay too, but very important to forgive yourself as a child, or love that child more, because it will reflect in who you are today. So thank you, everyone.
Diana?
I have a question. I live in Switzerland, and I know the ones who live in the States, your egg prices are so high, because my husband, Kevin, he has family as well in the States. And I have a question. Are you still allowed in the States to raise chickens?
Yes.
Or is there a ban because of the bird flu or anything?
Depends on where you live, but even I live in town and I have 10 chickens. So
okay. So people are allowed to have chickens still.
Yeah, but depending on where they are, sure.
Okay.
Yeah, some cities have ordinances, but beyond that.
Okay, that's good to know. Thank you.
Yeah.
And we have raised chickens and people who don't do anything worthwhile. I mean, we have that motive foul too. So, we have to understand which one is which. Sorry, couldn't resist.
Hi.
A bad pun.
Can I say something?
Yeah.
Yes, of course you can.
Oh, I'm sorry. Jenny, I would suggest follow your last name because your face is full of it. Not trying to be mean. I'm just saying you have a lot of love in your face. Follow it. Lloyd, I would suggest you play some more music, soft as you can.
I do
And
that
we'll
all
see
the
you.
time. I'm a musician, and I sing and I play and I do music all the time, and I drum,
Yes.
play the
Well, I would
singing bowl.
just follow your last name.
Yes, I do, and it's always kind of been a challenge at times,
Yeah,
but it's
I
a
understand that.
wonderful mantra for me. Thank you for
Yeah.
recognizing that.
The other lady who spoke of Indian and whatnot, who were sitting in the brown chair, I don't know her name.
Ellen, I think.
Elena?
Ellen.
Yes. The drapes that were hanging behind her showed her as an Indian with a feather in her head.
Really?
Where the light was coming through her hair.
Yes, there.
Right there. Behind your right shoulder.
It just looked like she would be a
It looked like
Native
you had a feather
American.
in your hair.
Yes.
How lovely. Thank you.
You reek the idea of freedom of nature and the becoming of one.
Thank you so much. That's really kind. Thank you.
Myself, I'm from LA.
And now you're in Switzerland. I loved
Yeah,
it in
the one I
Switzerland. I was
found.
there a few
Wow,
days
that's
a
a long
month.
I found this one in Yellowstone.
Yes, it's a long
Took
story.
me by surprise.
It's
Okay.
That's a good find. It's a good find. Did you report it to the National Park Services? Because you know you can't remove anything from the national parks.
I know, but he was with a Yogi Bear. So,
Yogi Bear.
Yeah.
Well, the jokes are coming out now about the fact that they're firing all these park rangers, and so they're already looking forward to tourist season with the bison, because we always have one tourist who thinks the bison are little kitty cats, and so
no,
now
they're
it's going to
not.
be like a
No,
big
they're not.
competition to see how many tourists are killed this year because there's nobody to supervise them, and so it's like the bets are on. I mean, it's not funny, but it is funny. You have to laugh, as Carrie Fisher says. You have to laugh, otherwise it's not worth it. Why are we here? So
Well, I know.
it's humor,
I
song,
worked
humor,
I
everything.
worked there in 91. I rode my bicycle from Old Faithful to West Yellowstone. I
Wow.
was afraid to get next to a buffalo. I came within 5 feet of a big black buffalo laying in the shade. I didn't see him until I was just in front of him. When he stood up, I just looked at him and told him, "I'm sorry, I didn't see you. If you allow me to pass, I won't block your way again." He allowed me to pass, and I took my bicycle and I walked slowly and gently away. I was thankful that nothing happened.
They know. They really do know.
But I hope the cat that I threw in the swimming pool forgives me. See you later.
Bye.
Right.
I don't know if you're interested when you talk about this, but I was thinking about whether I should tone for us before we leave the meeting today. If you're interested, if not, I'm not going to be hurt. But in terms of music and bringing frequency together, because it's a great way of holding things. So before we go, if you're interested, I'll close that and bring us out of the shield with that.
Sounds a lovely idea, Jeannie.
Okay. Is there anyone else that does anyone thanks for the thumbs up? What a great day. Oh, I knew it was going to be more than wonderful. It's always wonderful, like minds, and we are each other's cheerleaders as well. It's kind of with Spiritualists Anonymous or something that we come in for our spiritual gathering to be rejuvenated, to share our stories, to support each other, to love one another, to connect, to share our ideas and experiences. And I love how so drawn together we are. When I was in Switzerland all those years ago for this big Psi conference, it was the first time I had been out of the country under the format of doing spiritual work, and it was in '89, which was 3 years after the Challenger stuff, and I was really very nervous about it. But the reception I had there, I was in Basel, was absolutely amazing. It was amazing, and I found another pod. Here was this other group of very dedicated, loving, enlightened beings, and there there was no difference. I mean, other than maybe we spoke a different language, but the energy was the same, and it just has always stood with me about how there are so many groups of us everywhere doing what we could do and being who we can be. And if there's nothing else we can do in one day, is just to be comfortable, to be lighted, to be centered, to be calm, to be peaceful. I mean, that is an energy that goes out into the world. I mean, every part of us goes out into the world every day. So that's even more important for us to be in our center. And we're not always going to be there, and that's okay. So we're in forgiveness and that grace of it, so that we can just keep going forward, because the human experience is a bit dicey, and we need to acknowledge that and be okay with that diciness, and then move away and through it and for it, and go from there. So hopefully your week is filled with pleasure and comfort and strength and love and joy and fun, because it's not sacrilegious to have fun when things are going south. In fact, fun has to be part of keeping us from going down into the abyss. It keeps us up, and we're eternal beings. This is just a small portion of our spiritual history as a creative energy. God experiencing itself. We are all a part of that. Stepping back and looking the way we have today is brilliant. I just so appreciate all of you so very much. So, is there anybody else that wants to? So, Wendy?
Well, Jeannie, I just think that everybody has come to a point of stillness. This is what I'm feeling in the group, that the talk is no longer needed. There's just such a deep understanding and a feeling that, right, we're going to do what we got to do, and just keep on keeping on. It's it's a challenging time, but also a time of great potential. I think that's what I'm feeling more than anything now, is potential. Hyacinth?
I'd like to say again, thank you so much for this, because I am learning so much. And in my community, I am the crazy one, because I'm talking to them about this. And I just feel I must continue to talk about this. And yeah, they don't laugh because they respect my age. So, and they know that I have been in the community. I'm sort of part of it. But I just wanted to say this, that I just feel I must continue to give the message. And hopefully, one of these days, something will happen.
Hyacinth, I have one brief question for you, if you don't mind, or actually two brief questions. First, what took you to Austria? And
what's my?
I understand that you live in Austria.
Yes.
In Vienna. So my question is, what brought you there, and what's your perspective from Europe on what's happening in the United States?
Well, that's very strange also, because I don't share the views that most people have. But I was living in Sweden with my Swedish husband. He died. My children were growing up and living in different countries. And I thought, I need family around me. So I came here because I had a brother who had been here for 40 years with a family. And so that was it was the right move.
And
So I'm very much the church oriented in the Anglican church and so forth. And I, as Wendy knows, I have fights with bishops.
how do you and your community there view what's happening in the United States right now?
Well,
if there is a consensus, I don't know.
Oh yeah, no, there's mostly they think they don't agree with what Trump is doing at all, and they think that they must support Ukraine with the war and so on. And I have a completely different outlook because I went through the Cuban Missile Crisis with two babies, one 2 years old, 1 year old, and pregnant with a third. And so when Khrushchev, because I was in Jamaica, and that's 90 miles from Cuba. So we were chewing our fingernails because Kennedy said, "You're not putting any base there." So when Khrushchev turned the boats around, the ships around, no base, I will never forget the feeling of relief. And so I kept saying with Putin and them, turn the boats, turn the ships around, please. Let's not have a war. Turn the ships around. And that's my feeling. No war in Ukraine.
Thanks so much, Hyacinth.
Are we ready?
Jeannie, I think we're ready to come out of the shield, Jeannie, if you'd like to tone us out.
I'm happy to do that. And so as I'm toning, what we're going to be doing is disconnecting from one another. I mean, there's a time and place where we need to be in our own energetic field. We've created a union, and now we're just connecting that ever so slightly so we can go on our day in the evening and whatever's left for us. We're also making sure that we're back in our body, which is 0% connected to portals or functions, which means back in bowl, back in body. And then we change our psychic signature, which we've talked about before, which is we've created this wonderful energetic, but we want to make sure that the energetic is not vulnerable to things that are not of the highest good and the highest vibration. So we shift it around a bit for ourselves. But as we're doing that, let's just enjoy the ambiance for a few more moments of being in this group shield, and then doing that as I'm toning. And the toning is purely spirit given to singing the harmonies or the energies that I've been given. And hopefully my voice will wake enough to do that today. So bless us all, everyone.
Thank you, Jeannie.
Thank you, Jeannie. Thank you, Regina. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Dan. Thank you for moderating.